Hey everybody, welcome back to Lifelines here on Z93 Today's Best Hits. I am with Andrea and we are atop Radio Center. It's really cool up here on the fourth floor looking at really beautiful downtown Traverse City. And we are talking about all kinds of subjects tonight.
Oh, yes, we are. All over the gamut.
All over, and we have what, 20 minutes left? 15 minutes?
About 14 minutes.
14
actually.
minutes, and so the phone lines are open. You can call us at 231-929-HITS, 231-929-447-4487 about anything and everything. What we're talking about, what's going on with you, a conflict you're having at work, a challenge that you're having. It can be anything. Anything,
Yes.
anything. And part of the great thing about calling in, because it is vulnerable, we're well aware of that, is just getting something out of your head and out of your mouth. And that is a huge, if that's all somebody does and they don't even get any perspective on it, just, letting it out. I said it out loud because we are very well of something called the alone zone.
Right.
The alone zone. You know, something crazy. And I, as far as I've come with consciousness and those pauses to reflect on my first reaction to something or that old fear that pops in, and to be able to pause and question myself in those moments. My clients, I'm a hairstylist and I have a private studio and I have 126 females and my attorney and my husband. and as I'm slowly transitioning into a role with you, Andrea, and a role of the goal in the end game is a public figure, to have positive influence and reach as many people as we can. I share that with my clients, and they're like all my best friends, right?
Right.
I've been doing hair for 20 years, and over 50% of my clients have been with me the whole time. And then very few, I have very, they're very close. I'm very close and intimate with them, and it's a private studio. So when some of them, many of them weren't doing our training, because that's all we do in the studio is the therapy, right?
Right.
Aside from hair, of course. I didn't realize it, and I was feeling so hurt. And instead of feeling the hurt, because my cute little brain was trying to protect me not to feel it, it was instead coming out in trying to get them to do my training. And my blind spot was because the end of that sentence is because all of you guys are coming with Andrea and I. And we're all going to have influence, and we're all going to do the training, and we're all going to help everybody else that wants to do the training, and we can't do this alone. And it was crazy. I had this blind spot, and we know that at times your identity can't handle the truth, right? So that's why a wife can't see somebody having an affair, or a husband can't see a wife having an affair. These truths that are too hard for us to face, so we go into denial as a protection state. And what was so crazy, as I was getting closer and closer to being able to handle the truth of what I wasn't seeing, and how do I say goodbye? And I'm not saying goodbye today, but I don't have to say goodbye if everybody's coming.
Right.
I had a story written that all my clients who are my best friends, which is the majority of them, are all coming with us. And so I'm crying one morning to my client, who is one of my besties, Lori. Hi, Lori. And I'm like, I just thought all you guys were coming with me. I thought it was all for one for all. All we talk about is our self-improvement and our self-awareness and building our self-respect and communicating, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'll take your training. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, I thought you were coming with me. I thought it was just a given. And she's like, you never told us. You never asked us. And it was just so crazy.
Yes.
I was like, well, maybe I didn't want to see that, because maybe there's part of me that knew that couldn't be true, but it was easier to believe everybody was coming, which is still my desire. It is an actual desire. But isn't it funny how I had that? Well, not funny knowing what we know, but that I had that in my head, but I never said a word to anyone.
Yeah. can absolutely see how it happens.
And so that when we talk about people calling in or getting something off your chest, a lot of times we don't let it out because we don't have the self-respect or the self-worth or our programming is working against us to actually do anything about it. So it's easier to talk about what we're going to do or what we desire to do, but not actually what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because as we've talked about before, as soon as you get it out of your mouth, it becomes real.
Then you can actually hear it.
Mm-hmm. Then you can hear it, and then you can do something about it.
Right.
But until then, it's being hidden. And
The alone zone.
yes, and you're sitting there by yourself, pretending it's not happening.
Right.
Yeah.
That self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of my latest quotes. If you think you don't lie to yourself, you're lying. Because we talk about calories is a big one. For me, at least, calories don't count if nobody can see me, if I'm in the airport, if I'm in that one part of the kitchen, and TJ's around the corner. And when I let it out of my mouth, like I do when I catch myself lying to myself, hey, honey, did you know? Or, hey, honey, I want to ask you to take something up to the car, but I'm writing a story that if I ask you and it's irritating to you, that something bad's going to happen. Because that's what it always boils down to. Something bad is going to happen.
Yep.
Is that true? I mean, and I'm thinking that in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say anything. I remember my therapist one time saying to me, this was back when TJ and I first got together and I had all my old programming. And I said, I've been stressing about money for what was my whole life, right? Nobody worries about money. And I said, I've been stressing about money hard for like 4 weeks. And I didn't even know, it's so normalized, I didn't even know I was stressing about it. And she said, well, what did TJ say? And it just fell out of my mouth. What's he going to do about it?
Right.
And I was like, oh.
Yes, isn't that so funny?
Because if he has to be responsible for anything, then that's going to put pressure on him, and then he's going to leave me or something bad's going to happen. And I'm like, did you? She's like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God. So, and one other one I'm going to share is I said to TJ one day, as I let it out, the little schemes or fears I have going on in my head, or irrational beliefs or programs, I don't care what you want to call them. I said, honey, do you know that for whatever reason, which I know the reason, but whatever reason, it is my mission to always anticipate your needs and our needs before you even have to think about it. So I'm going to put the toilet paper on before you get it. I'm going to make sure your clothes are clean so you don't have to reach for them. I'm going to make sure that you don't get inconvenienced, agitated, disappointed in any way. That is like my contest I have with myself.
Oh, and that's not hard to live up to.
No, but what have you heard or what have you experienced that is the opposite of, or either that nobody cares, nobody helps me,
Right.
nobody does anything. If I just had more help, if my kids would just do this.
Mm-hmm.
But have we ever considered that there's a reason why we feel so overwhelmed?
I'm shaking my head. I'm nodding. Mm-hmm.
So letting things out of your mouth, which is one of the reasons why we'll say, I kind of think,
Right.
I'm kind of upset.
Right, just dipping a toe in and...
Yes. Like, are you upset or are you not upset? My favorite one is, don't get me wrong, I love her to death.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, the Joneses are the greatest couples.
Mm-hmm.
Before I say what I don't like about them. And then why don't we like something about them?
Well, and it's interesting, too, because that whole don't get me wrong, I love him to death piece is also saying, don't get me wrong, I'm a really good person, I shouldn't be saying this, but here it is.
Right. And I'm a victim of my circumstance,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't see it because I have a blind spot.
Right.
Right. Yeah, we talk about getting very clear. We were going on a camping trip, if you call it camping, to the Bay Harbor campgrounds,
Yeah.
in a beautiful luxury Winnebago motorhome. How dare I do that? Who do I think I am, right? But we were going with TJ's aunt, who I adore, but before we went, I'm like, I just want to talk, because what can happen is at the end of the weekend, you're driving home being like, can you believe, what do they think? We can't afford to go out to dinner every night. I thought we were going to this.
Right.
And then you're building a case against, I'm never camping with them again. So I said, it might feel a little uncomfortable, so I'll go first. I get nauseous around campfires if I'm around them too long. And I know you guys were talking about having campfires, how excited you are, because they were taking us like as their guests.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm all for it, but I just want to let you know ahead of time, at some point I might have to go back in the motorhome. And I don't want to hit you on the spot and make you think something that might, she's like, oh my gosh. And then I said about food.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my idea, and I'm willing to negotiate, of camping for a weekend is not cooking in a motorhome. What are you guys thinking? And by the time we were done, we had it all, everything was clear, and the negotiations were made, and it was a beautiful weekend.
Yes, because then you could enjoy it.
Right. And I said, there might be something else that is coming up that we didn't anticipate. However, what time are you planning on leaving on Sunday? What does that look like for you? And we just went over things, and it was, the rules of the game before we start, because it's that, oh my God, you'd think they would have bought groceries. Well, did you talk about groceries? Well, no, but
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the worst victimized, you would think. You would think they would know.
Right.
Well, why would you think that?
Right. And because we're, tell ourselves we're so avoidant of conflict, we avoid those conversations altogether.
Right. But then you tell your kids, you just got to go talk to your friend.
Right.
Or how about, this is my favorite one. I'm sorry, I know I just interrupted. Please forgive me. My God, if she just would have been honest with me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are fun little creatures that are like this, that's why we call them discovery sessions.
Mm-hmm.
What you think you're thinking and what you're thinking might be two different things.
That's very true. It's very true. And it's so interesting, too, because fundamentally, some part of us knows it.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Always.
Mm-hmm.
Just buried like Jack Nicholson as I've personally developed myself more and more. And it's easier not to take myself so personally and to make mistakes and fail forward and all that stuff that's supposed to be so easy. I go back to Jack Nicholson, like so many things have different meanings in A Few Good Men, where he's on the stand.
Right.
And Tom Cruise is attacking him, berating him, whatever you want to call it. And, he's like, you couldn't handle the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And I'm not saying he was the good guy in this case, but there's things now have such a different meaning for me than they did before. And just funny, today, I can't remember what it was, but there was a little something I'm like, oh, is that where that comes from? Huh. Oh, tricky.
Yes, it's interesting.
So we are down to about 1 minute,
Mm-hmm.
and we will be back next week from 7 to 8 p.m. here on Lifelines at Z93 Today's Best Hits. And again, if anyone listened to the show tonight and they're curious about our training and our consulting and coaching for business, for family, for individuals, for groups, you can email Andrea at thepractice.lifelines@gmail.com for more information. We'd be happy to answer any questions for you and give you more info. So on that note, thank you for joining us tonight. We will be back next week. And what else?
That's it. Thank you so much.
That's it.
We're grateful for you.
Oh, we're going to get to gratitude next week.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm telling the truth. Thanks, everybody.